The financial industry is like a private club. Depending on how much you have, you're either getting a VIP treatment or you're being sold a ticket to a show you don't need. Today, I'm going to show you exactly where you sit on the wealth map, why some of you should stop looking for an advisor right now, and why the rest of you are losing money every day that you don't have one. Let's talk a little bit about the two types of advisors that exist out in the industry: the fiduciary versus the broker. What you'll notice is that 89 to 90% of financial advisors today are brokers, meaning they get paid to sell investment products. They have no legal obligation to act in your interest. 11% are fiduciaries. They do. These are advisors that expressly vouch to put their clients' needs ahead of their own. Only 11% of the industry is subject to this fiduciary standard. The standard is so strong that if one of the advisors gets a better price on a security that they purchase, they must give you their price. Let's talk about you, the clients. Some of you are what we call mainstream. Mainstream clients are typically clients that have anywhere from $0 to $500,000 to invest. If you look at the pie graph, roughly 75% of clients fall in this category. Now, about 20.4% fall in the category of what we call mass affluent. These are people that have anywhere from $500,000 to $2.5 million to invest. From there, we move into the affluent category. There's about 3.8% of the US population that falls in the affluent category. Affluent clients are clients that have between $2.5 million and $10 million to invest. And then, of course, there's the last roughly 1% that are what we call super affluent. Super affluent clients are those that have $10 million or more to invest. If you're in the mass affluent category, you have enough money at this point that taxes are starting to hurt, and you definitely need a co-pilot, somebody that can kind of help walk alongside you and help you make decisions. And a true advisor should really act as a guide. They're not telling you what to do. They're putting themselves in your shoes and they're saying, hey, if I was walking in your shoes, what would I do for myself? A lot of times you're going to make better decisions than you would make if you were just doing this all by yourself. In the affluent category, now you need estate planning, sophisticated tax loss harvesting strategies, and complex investments to shield you from either liability or, in many cases, taxes. And then in the super affluent category, this is where we start to get into what we call the family office. You're not just buying investments at this point, you're buying time and you're buying a legacy. In most of the cases where somebody has $10 million or more, they've already made it. Their time is more valuable than their labor, and they would love to outsource labor to somebody else. They'd probably be making more money running their business or just enjoying their lives in general. So let's talk about a second phenomenon. What if you fall into that mainstream category, but not because you don't have any money, not because you don't have an ability to save, but just because you're young? What do you do then? In many cases, most financial advisors at this stage will not talk to you. The reason is they have no way of getting paid on managing your investments. But we know you have a lot of potential, because what we see is many people that are in this mainstream category, if you look at their income and you look at their savings rates, what we find is that they're eventually going to end up being in that mass affluent or super affluent category. When you're first starting out, you need to start to build the patterns of doing things yourself. Once you've built those patterns, then it's time to actually start to have a fiduciary, a registered investment advisor working for you. The people who reach the mass affluent tier by their mid-30s aren't the ones who DIY'd their way there. They're the ones who treated their income like institutional capital early. So let's talk about what these advisors do. And when you're looking for a financial advisor, I want to give you some optics as to what you should ask for. So what you see on your screen right now is a menu of services that we use here at Verde. The menu of services is not just looking at a breadth of advice, but also depth of advice. So on the left-hand column there, where you could see the 6 key areas of financial planning, these would be everything from cash management all the way to estate planning at the bottom. And along the top side there, you see the depth of advice. So you see how deep an advisor is willing to go. You should ask this of any advisor that you're looking to hire. The reason why this is so important is you want to make sure that the advisor that you have isn't fixated on one area. So for example, if you end up going to a firm that does primarily insurance, you might find that they're going to be trying to work on things like getting you a term life insurance policy or getting you covered for disability insurance, or maybe even trying to sell you a long-term care policy. But they're really not going to have a lot of resources as it relates to investing or maybe cash management. If you go to, let's say, someplace that's a budgeting shop, yes, they're going to help you find a way to save 10, 20% of your money, but they're typically going to be focused on putting that money into a savings account or creating an emergency fund, but they're not really going to help you with things like managing your 401k plan or creating an estate plan. In order to get a comprehensive financial plan, you need to start looking for a comprehensive financial planner or a wealth manager. And typically these are financial advisors that have been doing this for a long time. They might own their own firm, or they might be part of a company that does comprehensive financial planning. One great way to do this is to look at this and ask them, tell me a little bit about your menu of services. Do you subscribe to the certified financial planning program? I find that a lot of financial advisors today are asset allocators, not asset managers. And there's a big difference between the two. An asset allocator will just take your money and give it to somebody else and have that person manage the money. Nothing wrong with that, other than you're getting to now pay for two people. You're paying for your financial advisor. Their job is to manage you and the relationship. And now you're also paying for the asset manager because that person's charging a fee as well. So you've got layers upon layers of fees. An asset manager will be that person that's really interested in managing the money themselves. They have an investment philosophy. They might have a trading team. It's important that you understand what it is that you're buying. Verde does asset management. I'm the one that understands the investments that I'm buying for you, that I'm the one that understands what it is that we're going to be putting you in. Because if I just give it to somebody else and I outsource that piece, all I'm doing is becoming a middleman. And I don't ever want to be a middleman. I want to be a value provider. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, how the person gets paid. Most financial advisors today get paid in one of three ways. The first is through commissions. Commissions is when they get paid when you buy a product. There's a warning here. This does create an incentive to sell and not to solve the problem. They're not working for you. They're essentially working for their commission, which means that they're trying to find something that they can sell you where they get a nice big chunk of change. I see this quite often in the annuity industry, where a financial advisor will sell somebody an annuity and the person says, well, this thing's kind of garbage. Why would somebody sell me this? And I look at them and I'm like, well, think about it. Look at this annuity. It has a 10% surrender charge, which means that most likely that financial advisor got a 10% commission up front. Let's compare and contrast that to the second way financial advisors get paid, which is based on assets under management. This is where the advisor takes a percentage, usually 1% to 2% a year, depending on their model. And their incentive is to grow your pie so that your slice gets bigger. So in that same scenario, the assets under management advisor gets maybe 1% per year or 2% per year. At some point, there's a break even between these two models where the commission person's constantly searching for their next client because they need to get paid another commission. The assets under management person is building a business that perfectly aligns the incentives between the advisor and the client. When my advisor does a fantastic job, he or she makes more money, so they're rewarded for success. And when they do a really bad job, maybe they lose money or the stock market goes down. For whatever reason, if I'm in paying, they're punished for failure as well. And then there's a third type of advisor. These are not very common, but we also sometimes see flat fee or hourly advisors. These advisors love to tout how they're somehow less biased than the first two. I don't really see it. If you pay somebody hourly, their incentive is to jack up the number of hours. So if the person has the answer right away, the idea is, well, I'm going to go back and think about it and come back, do a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors to act like there's a lot of work happening. To me, flat fee and hourly advisors are to be avoided. The AUM model seems to me to be the best aligned between clients and advisors both getting what they want. So if you've realized today that you've outgrown the DIY phase and moved into the mass affluent, or even super affluent tiers, you need a plan that isn't a one-size-fits-all template. Call or click on the link below to talk to a Verde advisor. We'll show you exactly where you stand, what's being left on the table, and what a few targeted moves could mean for your long-term outcomes.